All right, hey guys, welcome back. Today, or in this video, we're going to look at, it's actually a fairly complicated video, so I think I can get through it relatively quickly, but you may want to slow it down and rewind every once in a while. The main idea here is, what is the structure that leads to alienation? If you remember in our last video, we talked about the fact that Marx's main concern is the quality of a person's life. He believes that people are creative and social and that we should have a life that allows us to express that and realize our full potential. And what he found was that that's not the case. Now, in order to get to the idea of alienation, he had to sort of stop off at exploitation. So he felt as though the key to capitalism was exploitation, that relationship where somebody uses somebody else. But ultimately, what he wants to get at is alienation. So, I've got the question, what structure leads to alienation? In getting to this, we've got to first of all get to this idea, what structure creates exploitation, that using of things. Now, his whole, the philosophy and the sociology that he spins out is going to really come down in kind of an amazing way to this three-word phrase, commodities versus products. Okay, so for Marx, to be a realizing your full potential, non-alienated person, you have got to do work. You have to create things because that's what humans are to him. We are creative. And when we create things, we produce something. There is a thing, whether it's a song or a pottery, a piece of pottery or a lecture or whatever. There's a thing that gets produced. And that is human nature, to produce things. We produce things in order to stay alive. And he believed in that process of producing things to stay alive, we achieve our full potential. We become self-fulfilled. But what he said was, and he saw this from looking at exploitation, he said, but something's different now. We're still producing stuff, but the whole process is not leading to self-fulfillment anymore. It's leading to alienation. What is the deal? How is the stuff that we're producing different? And the insight that he had was that it's about the things that we make now are commodities. And the term that we need to attach to this is the term, I think I've got enough room here. The term is exchange value. The things that we produce now are valuable to the extent that we can exchange them. In a self-realizing society, a society where people are not unfulfilled, we produce things that have use value. They are useful to us, and we produce them, and we achieve fulfillment along the way. But he said the key to a society that is about exploitation is the things that I'm producing when I work on an assembly line are not for me. And they're not even for the person who owns the facility. They are for that person to sell, to exchange for something else. And he said, and this is the key thing, if you set up a society that is based on commodities, that the things that we are all making are valuable only in the sense that we exchange them. If that is the crux of your society, then you're going to have exploitation. And if you are exploiting people, you are going to end up with alienation. So it's this difference, this transition. When we set up capitalism, capitalism is about commodities. Adam Smith said it is about our ability to make things to exchange. Well, and remember, Adam Smith is a good guy. He's trying to make things better for the nation. But Karl Marx says, Smith, it's not working. What we get, instead of a bunch of people exchanging things with each other, you end up with commodities that are only valuable in the sense that they are being exchanged. So you get capitalists, rich people, who are hiring people to exploit. We're using people. And once we do that, then the work that they do is going to be alienating. It's not about fulfillment. If I'm working on an assembly line, which I actually did when I was in college, and it was horrible. You're working 8 hours a day doing the same thing over and over and over again. It's like the definition of alienation. The person who hired me didn't hire me to alienate me. He hired me to exploit me because I needed to make a commodity that he could exchange to get rich himself. So Marx's key insight here is that this transition, as soon as we decide we are going to, as a society, orient ourselves toward exchanging things, the things that we make are going to lead to alienation. Okay, that's the essence of it. There are two really important terms, though. They're written small, but they've got asterisks, so you know they're important. The first term is fetishism of commodities, and that's what we need to talk about now. The idea of a fetish is, it's in the 19th century idea, it is turning something into like a religious symbol. And it wasn't exactly that Marx believed that, oh, we go worshiping the commodities that we make. But his idea was that when we do this, if we build a society based on commodities, what's going to happen is that the commodities themselves are going to come to have power over us. But not just them. The economy, the way that we make things, is going to suddenly attain a kind of godlike perspective for us. So, and you guys are familiar with this, even today in the 21st century, we talk about how what government policies will do to the economy, or do we have to make sure that the economy runs smoothly? What do we have to do to get the economy back running? We talk about it like it's this thing that exists out there above us. And Karl Marx is saying, yeah, no, it's something that we decided to do and that involves relationships of exploitation. It's not a thing out there. It's a set of relationships that we have. But as soon as we create commodities so that money is involved, then this thing called the economy takes on a life of its own. In our minds, Marx is saying, at any point we could say, yeah, you know what, this doesn't make sense. We don't have to treat people like that. We just don't, because it attains this godlike presence in our lives. Okay, that's the idea of the fetishism of commodities. Rewind that if you need to, and obviously email me if you have questions about it. But the idea here is that something that doesn't really exist before we make it, all of a sudden becomes something that is external to us. The other term, probably the cooler term to me, is the term reification. Reification, and I can just scroll down in my script a little bit right now, is the process, and it's intimately related to fetishism of commodities. Reification is the process of coming to believe that human-created things are natural and unchangeable. To reify something is to create it and then give it power over you, which is exactly the way I just described the economy, right? Nowadays, like the economy is, again, it's something that we wake up in the morning and through our interactions, we create that. But we don't think of it that way. We think of it as this thing that has to be served. And if you do things a certain way, oh, the economy will tank. But that's not reality. That is a reification. We've created it, and we can change it any way we want. But we don't think of it that way. We think of it as this external thing to us that now has power over us. Okay, so I started this out 9 minutes ago. I'm going to get you done in 30 seconds. What structure leads to alienation? The answer to that question, based on all of this stuff, the structure is a reified social relationship. The structure is reified, exploitative social relationships. They're just relations between people, but we have reified them so that we think of them as unchangeable, as natural. Okay, that's 10 minutes. Next video, we will come back and talk about the contradictions that once you reify something, what are the contradictions that end up getting created between people? Because remember, before we reify, we're all just human beings who are equal to each other. I mean, in terms of Lockean, like sort of natural law. And then once we reify them, we start sorting people into categories. But that's what we'll get to next time.